Wanted to make sure that it went well. Excellent. All right, it is 10 o'clock. We are going to get started. This is especially a good one if you have a baby puppy or have just picked up, like Jim said. Please feel free, unmute your microphones. We're going to try a little, or mute your microphones. We're going to try a little thing you'll see in your little bar where you can use the chat function and things, that there's a little way to raise your hand if you have a question during this. Melissa and VJ are helping me. They're such great team members. And I love having them as part of my team. They're answering questions in the chat box and helping me out. So if you have questions, otherwise we're going to begin. Hopefully, there we go. Transport, yay! So some of you might have the question of, what is transport? Because is it putting your dog in the car? Is it taking them somewhere? Transport is a management strategy that allows us to move our puppy from one place to another without the puppy engaging in behaviors such as pulling, jumping, lunging. That happens quite frequently with our baby puppies. It seems like as soon as you go to move, they leap forward and they're trying to get to leaves and they're trying to get to other dogs. We needed a management tool, and the difference between a management tool and training is that management is what we're doing proactively to keep the situation under control. We're not actually training them to do anything. So this is really a different way, where this is not training for loose leash walking. That's a little bit different. But transport is a way to move this puppy without them practicing these bad behaviors, because what do puppies get good at? Puppies get really, really good at what practice. So if you are going out to your park area every morning and they're pulling like a racehorse on the end of that leash to get to the park spot, maybe you want to try to engage in a transport tool, because they're going to practice that pulling and they're going to say, all I need to do is pull and my person takes me to the park spot. So this allows us to help you get from one place to another without those engaging in those bad behaviors. So what are the tools that you need to get started? Of course, you need your puppy and yourself and your leash, both, all three of those things. You don't need to put on your martingale necessarily for this. And you need one of the following transport tools. And I call them tools because you definitely need something to help you out with this in most cases. I'm going to show you two ways where you can use transport where you don't necessarily need any of the following. So you need a handful of kibble or some kibble to use like a Pez dispenser. I know that sounds like a weird thing, but as you get used to handling and giving reinforcements to your puppy, that's going to become second nature to you. Either some big piece of jerky or a large biscuit that maybe your puppy can't quite get a big piece off of yet. You could also use a peanut butter filled Kong, and I have this in part of my video portion. And you're going to need some peanut butter, or you can use some peanut butter canned food on a spoon or paint stick. This is if you have a tiny baby puppy and you don't want to bend over as much. Sometimes this type of thing is what's going to help you. Does anybody have any initial questions about the tools that you need for transport? So the technique is that you're going to start by holding the transport tool. So one of those things, kibble, the peanut butter Kong, or the lickety stick. Oh, and also I wanted to tell you, on our YouTube channel, there is a 6-minute video, and I didn't want to do it here because it's 6 minutes. A 6-minute video of the different types of transport tools. So if you're confused as to what is she talking about, transport tool, and I have 3 videos to show you. They're little 10-second videos, but that shows you a couple of them. But there's more in depth. There's a few more items on there. You can use a lean lick, a lickety stick, some different types of things. And if you want to see what they look like, on our YouTube channel, our Leader Dog Puppy Raiser YouTube channel, you can find that if you just do a quick search on YouTube. You can find that video starring yours truly in the video. So then once your puppies, you're starting by hold it directly to the puppy's nose. Transport is not the horse and the carrot. So you're not just having this this piece of food dangling out and the puppy is following, it is directly to the puppy's nose and mouth so they can lick and chew on it as you move. Once the puppy is engaged, so if you're sticking it by their nose and they're still pulling somewhere else, that's really not going to work. The trick is that your puppy has to be engaged with this transport tool, licking, chewing, sniffing, any of those things on that tool, and then you begin to move. Here is a little video, and I hope this works. Melissa and VJ, please let me know if this is working. This is me using some kibble. I haven't started yet. I'm going to be using some kibble to show you, and I'll play it a couple of different times. I'm actually just using a food treat in my hand to get my puppy to move forward. So again, I'm going to get his attention. I actually say his name. I don't know if you're going to be able to hear the video or not, but I actually say his name. And then once he starts licking and chewing on the food I have in my hand, we're going to move forward. So let me go ahead and play this. This is just food, just kibble. He's engaged with me. I have the food, and then we move forward.
Your video's playing, Laura.
Awesome. So that is, again, that's just him. We're going to show it again. It is just food. You notice he's not pulling, he's not lunging, he's not diving because he's a Labrador. He loves food. And what I love, again, I always say this about these videos, what I love, love, love about this puppy is how happy he is. He's happy, his tail's wagging, he's excited. Mom's got some food, she's going to transport. But here it is again. I say his name, get his attention. Again, see how it's right there? It's right there. And he can eat it. All right. This next video, let me get a drink here. The next video here is I'm using a peanut butter filled Kong. So same principle. I have to have my dog's attention. He has to be engaged. If kibble is not enough in the areas too distracting, then maybe I would have to use some peanut butter in a Kong. So here's that technique. He's engaged, and then we move. So I'm going to show you that one more time. Again, this is a Kong filled with some peanut butter. He's engaged, and then we move. Again, this is in a very low, distracting environment. So he is not, we're in my house, we're in my kitchen, this is where we live, this is where we train all the time. So there's no distracting items around here. But this is, in general, this is what transport looks like. Here's one more video.
Laura, do you have time for a question?
Oh, okay.
Deborah has a question. Deborah, you can unmute yourself. She's raising her hand. So
Yay,
this is the first time we
works.
can try that feature.
I can't see the video.
Okay, so sometimes not only our computer systems, but your system sometimes doesn't work properly. So I would encourage you, Deborah, to watch it when it streams again, when we have it uploaded to our YouTube channel. Usually the videos will go then. Also, if you want to see them, I can always send them to you. If you send me a quick email, I can send you the videos.
That's okay.
Okay, I couldn't see it at first. You log out, you log back in, and it came out.
Awesome.
So you can try that. It might work.
And like I said, I try to run these all 2 different times. Oops, hang on. So that if you don't get to see it the first time, sometimes maybe the second time will work. But I'm going to back this one up here a little bit. All right, this is the next one using a spoon. This is actually not a spoon. It's a Nylabone that I put some peanut butter on the end to mimic what a spoon is like. I don't have a plastic spoon in my house that I wanted my dogs to lick or chew on. And I didn't have a handy paint stick because my puppy's much larger and we don't use them anymore. I kind of has those as disposable. But this is the same technique and principle. So I just wanted to show that to you. You could certainly use your Nylabone just like this too. Easy peasy to do it that way. Again, I engage the dog first with me, and then we move. Clicking. And see, you don't have to bend down as far, and the dog goes right along with you. I wanted to kind of point out a couple of things to you. When would you use transport? When is a good time to use a transport tool? Anytime you want to get that dog from one place to another without practicing pulling. So say you're walking into the vet clinic and you're late for your appointment, you've got to get there fast, use transport. You're going to church and you can hear the music and you got to get in there, use transport. If you see another dog coming and you know that your puppy's going to likely to pull towards that other dog, get out your transport tool. That's why kibble works so well and those kinds of things. Always, if you're wearing your bait bag all the time, you're always going to have some kibble with you. Whip out that kibble and transport past that other dog. So, or something on the ground. Let's say you see a piece of paper towel on the sidewalk or a tissue on the sidewalk, or God forbid, a mask or glove or any of those types of things. And you see it on the sidewalk and you're walking up to it, grab your kibble and transport past that item that you know they're going to run, jump, leap towards. You can use transport past it. And you can see how beautifully, let's just play the video again, how beautifully he just walks along with me. Like he's not going to try to get to another spot or another space. He's just going right along. He says, okay, I'm following the peanut butter, I'm following the food. And it's really high value to him. So in troubleshooting this behavior, so what happens when your puppy disengages with the item? Like maybe that other dog looks way more exciting than the peanut butter you have on the end of a Nylabone. So it might not be that, it might be that whatever you're using for transport, so say it's just kibble, if the puppy disengages with the item, it might not be high enough value for your puppy. So make sure that you're using something they really like. Unfortunately, we do have puppies that don't like peanut butter. So maybe peanut butter isn't the thing for them. Maybe next time you do this transport and you're practicing transport at home, make sure that your puppy engages with the food item that you have or the toy. You can certainly use a toy to transport if they really like chewing on their antler, say. You can go take your antler with you and transport them. So when the transport's not working past an item that you might need to go past, like another dog or that tissue on the sidewalk or leaves or sticks, you want to provide distance to become successful. So sometimes transport doesn't always work for us. And I want everybody to kind of know that just because we hand you these tools doesn't mean the tool's going to work in every situation. So that is what I would suggest. All right, if you see that he's not engaging with the transport and that dog is coming and it's coming fast, I might cross the street so that I can make sure that I'm having adequate distance so that my dog can be successful. Another thing I wanted to point out is that transport is to be used in addition to training. It's not in place of the training. It's a management strategy. It's a way for us to get our puppy from point A to point B or get them past a distraction quickly and safely without practicing other behaviors. So if you're always transporting, you're not necessarily training for loose leash walking. So that's kind of an important distinction. One thing that I forgot in making my video, I made these 3 little videos here. And I really forgot that you also, to keep your puppy close by you, one of the ways you can transport them is by putting your hand through the collar. So that keeps them from jumping away. Maybe there's another dog coming and you want some extra protection from your dog leaping away from you. Having your hand under the collar and using food at the same time is definitely something that you can do. So I didn't make a video of that. I probably should have looking back on it, but that's something that you can do as well.
Laura, you
Yes.
have a really good question from Arun. Arun says, so the peanut butter is the regular peanut butter that we use at home. We just rub it on the Kong toy or the Nylabone, or is it different peanut butter for dogs?
What a great question. I love it. You can use regular human peanut butter. I use whatever I buy at Sam's Club, but I label it very clearly in my cupboard, which is dog peanut butter and which is people peanut butter. But as long as you aren't using peanut butter that has xylitol in it. So that would be like a sugar-free type peanut butter. You want to look at your peanut butter ingredients. Second of all, use it sparingly if you can, because remember, we are keeping our puppies at adequate weight and we don't want to overload them with calories. So if you are using some form of peanut butter, maybe it's peanut butter in a Kong or on a toy or in a squeeze tube, which you can see if you watch my video on YouTube, that you want to use that with some caution, maybe take out some kibble out of their breakfast, lunch, or dinner to make sure that you're making up for those additional calories. But that's a great question.
Laura, it's Rita Schweikert.
Hi, Rita.
Hi. I'm going to do the video, but excuse the background. Can you see this?
I can.
Okay, so this is the toy, right, that you use to throw a tennis ball. So obviously you're not going to throw the tennis ball, but it's long and curved, and you can use this side to put peanut butter on it.
Nice.
And so then
Excellent.
those of us that can't bend over real good, it works.
I love it.
But I leave the ball in there because it could be sharp on the sides, you know, so.
Great use of something you already have to practice transport. I love it. Great
Yeah,
use of that tool. It's called
and
a
in
chuck it,
addition-
by the way.
Pardon?
It's called a chuck it. I'm very familiar with those. I
Yeah,
used to
can't
have a
remember
ball
what
dog.
Oh, I just bought it. But another thing that my counselor told me was you can always take their kibble and freeze it, you know, put it in the Kong with
Yes.
a little water and freeze it, and then it lasts longer as you're transporting.
You can do that as well. Yes.
Because Ranger was allergic to peanut butter, so I had to do that.
Yeah, sometimes you have to be creative in the ways that you come up with your transport tools, certainly. And that's the kinds of things that I'm looking for. So excellent, excellent job. Like I said, YouTube channel, you can find the video of all the different things that you can use. I have a table and it's full of things and I go through each individual one. I didn't want to do that here because of our time constraints, and it's a fairly long video. Another way, if you have a baby puppy, one that's pretty small, you can transport them. Another way to transport a baby puppy is how? Anybody raise your hand in the chat box because I want to practice this. If you know how to transport a baby puppy, you can come up with another way. I know there's probably a very experienced raiser on here who's got the answer that can answer it for us.
Deborah raised her hand, Laura, first.
Deborah, tell me.
PJ, thank you.
A very young puppy, I would pick up and physically hold the puppy to get from A to B.
Yes, it is absolutely 100%. For those of you new who are joining us, the people have just picked up their puppies, maybe even yesterday or last weekend. Yes, 100%. Pick your puppy up until you can't anymore. There is nothing wrong with that. Leader Dog does not say never hold your puppy. That's not our platform at all. We want you to pick up your puppy because that is a very successful way to get from point A to point B. Obviously, from my videos, you can see that my 8-month-old puppy is way too big to pick up. In fact, I probably stopped picking him up shortly after I brought him home because once he got over about 30 pounds, I was all done with the picking up. But in the case of an emergency, and I absolutely had to get him somewhere and we were running away from, I don't know what, a black bear or something crazy like that, yeah, I would still probably try to pick him up. But you definitely can pick up your baby puppy. Do we have any questions? Any questions in the chat box? Anybody want to raise their hand with a good suggestion like Rita's?
No questions in the chat box just yet, Laura, but we have some great comments and a lot of great feedback. everyone was really aware that they should pick up their puppies as a different form of transport. And
Perfect.
actually now we do have a question coming in. It looks like Anne was raising her hand. And if you want to unmute yourself, you can.
Okay, no, I just wondered, so for walking, I know you've talked about the type of collar we can use. There is no use of gentle leader, is that right? Or can we use it?
You can. So if you are interested in using a management tool, you first have to discuss it with your counselor
Okay.
or someone from puppy development, and we will approve that for your use. Really, typically, and while you're using transport, by the way, you could have on any of the equipment that you have that you normally use on your puppy. I don't want to say while you have a gentle leader on, you can never use transport, because you certainly can.
Okay.
If you're already using that tool. We put those as management tools on when people are really struggling with loose leash walking and things, but your puppy's typically older, and you have been practicing and really putting some effort into training loose leash walking. So that's a whole other topic. I would love to talk about all the strategies and ways that we can practice loose leash walking, but today is transport. So if you have additional questions about loose leash walking, the first place that you can definitely go is to your counselor. They have lots of resources, and there's also, I think, some videos on our YouTube channel as well about loose leash walking. Or you can email the puppydepartment.org, like I've got up here on the screen for you. That is another place where you definitely could get some feedback on loose leash walking.
Okay, thanks.
It's challenge time. I'm challenging every single one of you. Of course, you can still ask your questions. I'm open for questions. But I'm challenging everyone to post a transport video similar to mine. Those of you that say you can't do this alone, normally my kids help me with my videos every single time. You'll see my kids in the videos. But I actually made them this morning, and I couldn't get anybody out of bed. So I had to do it myself. So all I did was I put my phone on a bar stool and clicked the play button. I just had to do a little editing at the beginning to take it off of there, but it was fairly simple. But I want you to post a transport video to our Facebook group, or if you're not in our Facebook group and you still want to participate, send your video to puppydepartment@leaderdog.org. I want to see how everybody transports their puppies, even if it's a pick them up and walk them. I want to see that too. I want to see that everybody knows how to do this, and that's my challenge to each one of you. We're going to see how many videos we can get of the transport challenge.
Hey, Laura.
Yeah.
You have a question from Lindy, and she says, do you think this will work, getting the puppy into the car when they are refusing?
That is a really great question. Yes. And that's depending on when and how you're using it. Getting into the car. So some puppies that hesitate getting into the car just need a little bit of work on that. First and foremost, yes, you can transport them and use this type of thing to get them to go into the car, certainly. But when you're getting into the car, I want you to think about the setting up a training session to do it where you actually don't go anywhere. So if you're struggling getting your puppy into the car, maybe you're putting some kibble onto the floor if that's how you're getting them in. Most puppies are going to be somewhat reluctant to jump into like the back of an SUV. Even my puppy doesn't like to jump into the car. I actually pick him up and lift him into the car. He doesn't have any problems riding in the car. That's not a problem for him, but he's a little bit reluctant to jump in there. So I help him by giving him a boost. And you can certainly do that to get your puppy into the car.
Laura, it's Rita again. I'm still having trouble with McKinley because he used to get car sick.
Uh-huh.
So now he doesn't get car sick because I put the other two dogs in, and the other two dogs just jump in because they're ready to go.
Yeah.
And I noticed that McKinley I stopped using the crate and tethered him in the back seat because he wouldn't get car sick then.
Yes.
He seemed
Okay.
to get more car sick in the crate. So I took the crate out and tethered him, and then with the other 2 dogs in there, he still does not willing. I have to pick him up to get him in there
Yeah.
because he just does not. But he doesn't get car sick.
Good.
You know, and he's
That's
not like,
progress. And
panting
some
or-
of that is really growing and developing. And so the important part is that you are doing things to be proactive and to help solve the problem. Have I had dogs that have not jumped into the car and jumped in? Yes. Have they gone on to be guide dogs? Yes. So
The interesting thing with Ranger, he was just like your dog. He put his front paws in, and I'd have to lift his back end to get
Yeah.
in.
yeah,
know,
and
and-
there's and there are other things you can do. You can have the use of a climb. You can practice by having them jump on the climb, jump in the crate, not in the car. So you can certainly practice that at home or on something sturdy. I've seen lots of people practice
with
that.
Ranger, he could jump over the couch. It wasn't a problem jumping.
Yes,
He
but you
just,
have to remember
like,
whenever
oh,
we talk
you know,
about our
help me.
dogs.
Yeah, he was.
Whenever
he was,
we
he was
talk
just
about our
like,
dogs
when I got
jumping
up
into
back.
the car
Yeah,
and
when I
jumping
got
into
back.
vehicles. Remember, Rita, we spend a lot of time teaching our dogs not to jump. And so we have to sometimes have to work on that as behavior separate from other things. So separate from transport, separate from getting into the car, separate from some other behaviors. Sometimes we have to break these down and to remember that there are small pieces that go to each one of them. So don't be so focused on it that it impedes you from doing other things with your puppy. Okay, that's my best advice, is to always remember, if we're focusing very much on one behavior, sometimes we can manifest it into something that more than what it is. So
Okay,
think
so
about
if
a bigger picture, or move on to something else. Say, you know what, I'm going to leave this car thing alone for a little while, and I'm going to work on some other behaviors, and hopefully maybe we'll come back to it and it will be good. And then contact your counselor, let them know that you're experiencing that problem. Write it on your questionnaire so that puppy development knows you're experiencing that problem, and give it some time to marinate with your dog's brain. Maybe come back to it with some fresh eyes.
Okay, so when I really need to get him in the car, it's okay to just pick him up and put him in there.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yes.
Because I was worried because I thought, well, maybe that's not because that's forcing him in, but yet.
That's a little bit of another issue, but it's okay if you are going somewhere and you need to get him in the car, that you pick him up and help him get in. That's okay. You're not hurting him by getting in. He's not car sick. He's not afraid of the car. You're good.
Okay.
Okay.
Laura,
Yes.
Mark Felt has a question. He's got his hand raised.
Hi, Mark.
Hi, Laura. I just have a comment. The puppy jumping into the car will be something that they'll probably be able to accomplish as they get older.
Yes.
But one of our puppies went to a gal out in Arizona. It was her second puppy. And when they picked up Kagan to take him to the airport to fly home, they opened up the back door, and she expected to have to lift her up into the car. And she jumped into the back seat, and she sent us a real nice email thanking us for teaching them to do that.
Yeah.
It's something that the dogs will eventually learn. A lot of kibble on the seat, but she was very appreciative of the fact that the dog jumped into the car, which we never thought anything about it, but it was very nice to hear from her and thanking us. And that was it. That was my comment.
Absolutely, Mark. That absolutely is a great. It's definitely something that we all can be cognizant of. Of course, not, like I said, not every puppy jumps into the car and jumps in with energy and excitement, and that's okay. So I want you to know that not every puppy is different. Some puppies will jump in. Some puppies are less likely to do that. It sounds like there's enough traction on this topic that maybe I will cover it in future sessions. Do we have other questions? I'm going to pull up the chat here.
Laura,
Yes.
this is Beverly. Just one more comment on puppies jumping into the back of an SUV. I've had the experience with some dogs that when we expect them to jump into the back of the SUV with the crate sitting right there in the back, I've had the experience with some dogs that if I teach them without the presence of the crate, that is helpful. I think with the presence of the crate there and expecting them to jump into that crate, I think it's probably how they perceive that opening, and that maybe their visual perception of that may throw them off a little bit and that they may be hesitant. So if I take away that visual of the crate and just start teaching to jump into the back without a crate, I'm more successful than I can add the crate to it.
Yes.
Does that make
It
sense?
really, and I tried using a climb in a crate and to practice at home, and what didn't work for me, because I think we all can learn by, sometimes we learn what doesn't work also, is that he did not want, he was absolutely fine doing that. He was beautiful jumping into the crate. And as soon as I got to the car, then he was like, nope, I want you to lift me. And so it really was a learning curve for me that he needed to go all the way through when we used the crate technique. So I had to have a crate with two doors, one on either end of the crate. But I think I'm going to try it with him getting in without the crate in there and see how that works for him. It works as soon as I open the door for my other future leader dog that I'm rehoming right now. He jumps in the car. So I know it's just an individual thing. It's not height of the car or any of those other things. I know it's just an individual thing, and it's just working on what works best for him. And a lot of times that it can be different for every puppy. But that's a great suggestion, though.
Laura, we
Yes.
have a comment
Yes.
from Lindy,
Sure.
and she says that when I first started raising, we were instructed to not have our pups actually jumping in the car until at least 11 months old, because the development of their hips, is that still a consideration?
I think if your puppy willingly jumps in the car and has the ability, the physical ability to do so, I think it's okay. I understand where they're coming from, especially jumping down. I don't encourage my puppies to jump with a ton of energy, especially jumping down. I prefer that they kind of take it slow and jump down easy. But we haven't experienced any problems where that would be an issue. I see that Don and Jan have a question about a climb. A climb is a small platform. It has legs on it. It's made of a heavy plastic, and we have some in puppy development that we use frequently. It's a company called Climb with a K, just so you know when you're looking to find that type of tool. It's not necessary. You can use any kind of small stool. The reason that the climbs are specifically made for dogs, they're specifically made, I think Melissa just posted in the chat box there a really great graphic of what a climb looks like. And that's what we use because we know that they're safe. But that's what a climb is. Thank you, Melissa, for doing that.
You got it.
Laura, when I had an older dog, I had a ramp that was a dog ramp that was rough and it extended. So then the dog could just walk up the ramp to get in the back. So that's also a
You certainly can do that. Again, a lot of these things are, what is your personal preference? And so that's where some of those things come in. I'm going to just shut off my video feed. Maybe that'll help a little bit. But yeah, definitely some of those things are personal preference. And so I want you guys to really think about what works for you. I try to think of everything that I do and every piece of equipment that I might use at home with my dog. How is this going to impact them as a guide dog? And sometimes when you think of that, you go, oh, well, a ramp is not really going to inhibit them. or a climb is not going to inhibit them. And you think about those different tools and you go, okay, I think those are probably okay. And if you have a question about it or you're unsure, puppydepartment.org or at leaderdog.org, email us personally, individually. We're happy to answer that type of question. Also, so is your counselor. So if you can't remember our emails and you ask your counselor and you say, is it okay that they jump on this and then into my car? And your counselor says, sure, no problem. Great, you've got your answer.
You can also stand behind your puppy and grab their butt and kind of help guide them into the car because they're fearful of the jump. So you kind of put their front paws up on the front seat step, and then as they start to climb in, you're there to kind of support them and not push them in, but just be an escape valve. So if they slip, you're there to catch them.
Yeah. I think we're getting a little off our topic, but I'm going to answer one more question from Mary and Merlin. As long as we're talking about puppies riding in cars, do they still ride on the floor in the front seat? Yes, that is an appropriate place for them. Also, riding in a crate in your car would be another place that you could have your puppy ride as well. So if you're brand new and you're not sure, ask. That's okay to ask those types of questions. But yes, your puppy should be on the front seat. I have a very long commute. I know I say this every time, but I have a very long commute to work. So I've actually been enjoying working at home and seeing you folks from here. I don't have to drive to work, but I have my puppies in a crate for safety all the time because of how far I drive. The likelihood that I would, be involved in a bad accident on I-75, well, that could happen. So I always keep mine in a crate just for safety purposes. But when I'm going somewhere with my husband or now I have a teenage 16-year-old driver, sometimes I do put the puppy in the front seat with me just to practice.
Going back to topic, that Chuck It that one lady presented, let people know that they come in different lengths too.
They do. They come in all different lengths. That's a good product. But I'm a big cheapskate, so for me, a plastic spoon that I get from the dollar store that's fairly disposable if my puppy chews on it is a really super option. I know I can wash it, and I know I can keep it in my puppy bag. I keep a little tiny jar of peanut butter that I can use. Deborah's raising her hand. I love this hand raising, Deborah.
Going back to Rita's comment and Mark just now too about the Chuck It. I love that idea. And now that I have my new titanium back, I found that I can't actually bend. And so this will be great for helping with transport with our new co-raising baby puppy. I'll actually be able to reach him and do transportation.
Yes,
So I
love
think,
it.
yay, Rita, that was terrific.
Yes, that was a very good suggestion, Rita. I like it. And it's the curve on it is helpful as well. Do we have any more questions? Thank you for joining me. I love seeing your faces. Carolyn, I see you. Deb, way far away. Deb Hall, you're so far away. Deb Japor, you come to a lot of these. Lynn, it's nice to see you. Hi, Lynn. I haven't seen you in a long time. So it's so fun to see everyone. Aaron asked a great question. He said, is that xylitol free low sugar peanut butter? I use plain old peanut butter. So it doesn't have to be low sugar. Xylitol is typically the sugar-free one because that's the chemical that they use to sweeten it up. So I would stick with something that's full fat. Tastes better anyway. Thank you guys for coming. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey, Laura, can you hear me? Laura, are you still there?
Deb, I think Laura might have left already, but is there anything I can answer for you?
I was just going to talk to